have now a more technical presentation about the data sources that you can use in the context of this workshop, but we are more broadly presenting something that you can also benefit in the rest of your working or academic career. So just to give you an overview of some of the data that you can use to work on these topics. So our infra for next gen project that is hosting this workshop today is based around five major cross-national survey infrastructures, which are the European Social Surveys, the European Value Studies, the Generation and Gender Survey, the International Social Survey Program, and the European Quality of Life Surveys. But for today, we will focus just on the first three, so ESS, EVS, and GGS, plus Kronos. In particular, Ruxandra will talk about Kronos right after my presentation today. Kronos is still part of the ESS, but we will see why we keep it separate, because it has a different arrangement compared to the main ESS survey. And we will present you this data infrastructure, the survey infrastructure that you can use for your analysis. And we will give you, there will be a lot of gifts for you today. So let's go directly into it. We start talking why these surveys matter. It is because they ensure cross-national comparability. So whenever you want to compare, as Rumiana did, data indicators between different countries and over time, these surveys are fundamental because they provide you the infrastructure to do that. And most of the time they are cross-sectional, so you have repeated questions across time, but the individuals, the people, the persons that respond might not be the same in every survey, except for the GGS that is longitudinal. So in that case, we can keep track also of the within individual change over time. And in general, these surveys aim to pursue the highest methodological standards possible. So in principle, everyone can take a survey, especially now with the internet and the free tools that there are available. But of course, to project and implement a meaningful survey is another thing, and you have to follow the standards defined by the academic and institutional associations. And of course, these surveys infrastructure do that. And they all follow the principle of open data. So everything that I will show you today is freely accessible with a couple of clicks online. Some registrations, pre-registrations, but everything is available and free. And they are relevant, these data sources, because they allow, of course, to answer social science research question and policy analysis. The first one is the European Social Survey, and it provides high-quality open access data measuring public attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. So the main characteristic is that, of course, data are gathered at the individual level, so you can analyze them at the aggregate national level, like Rumiana showed you, but the elementary information, as it is called, is the individual recording, and they regard European countries, cross-sectional, as I said, and there are face-to-face interviews, mostly. Then we had some exceptions during COVID with the ESS. And the first ESS wave took place in 2002, and since then, every 2 years, there is a new wave. So we have 11 waves available so far. And as said, it is everything free. Just a map to show you the countries that participate in the program over time. And in general, you can see that almost every European country took part of the ESS at least one time. You have these dark green colored countries in the map, which are those that are present in all the 11 waves. And you have some countries doing in and out, but in general, this is just to show you that you have a quite good coverage of Europe, which with such information. And more concretely, what does the ESS study? So the main focus is on social and political attitudes, trust in institutions, democracy, immigration, welfare attitudes, and well-being. And these are covered in the core modules, meaning that in each wave, every 2 years, there are some questions in these core modules that are repeated every time. And so you can keep track of these changes in opinion and attitudes on this topic. But in each module, in each wave, sorry, you will also have these rotating modules with specific questions on some aspects. So the SS allows for both a structure, set of information which allow to keep track of social change over time, but also has some flexibility to go deeper in some topics that might emerge as relevant in specific times. And this is one of the distinctive traits. And the other one is that the ESS really follow the highest methodological standards possible. Not to say that the other don't do that, the other server infrastructure, but the ESS is really committed to follow the best methods and techniques that you can implement in this topic. And this way it represents the gold standard for the study of opinions and attitudes in Europe. Coming to the European Value Studies, the EVS, it is the most ancient cross-national survey infrastructure in Europe. The first wave took place in 1981, but we have waves every 9 years. So we have 5 waves so far, and the new one is on field right now. So different countries are probably asking information to participants in this exact moment. And it is a large cross-sectional survey like the ESS, but the focus is different. It's not so much on political attitudes and opinions and social opinions, but on values, social values, let's say, and cultural change. But just like the ESS, it is open data. Also here we have very good coverage of Europe. We can say that literally every country in Europe participate in the EVS at least one time. And in 2008, we reached the peak of 47 countries participating. Then there were a bit less in the subsequent waves. And let's see how the new wave is going. But in general, you can compare Europe with this data as the picture will show you. And again, more concretely, what does the EVS study? I said that the focus is on social and cultural aspects. So you have religion, family values, work ethics, morality, political culture, and social norms. And the distinctive trait is indeed the possibility to study long-term value change. That is why the EVS take place every 9 years, because cultural change is lower than social change, like than change in political and opinions and attitudes. So 9 years is enough, and DVS is more prone to the study of cultural and normative dimensions of these aspects, and it is fundamental for the study of deep social and cultural change. And then we have the GGS, the Generation and Gender Survey, which is part of the Generations and Gender program, and it is the only one that is longitudinal. So in this case, the same individuals, of course, despite the attrition, so the possibility that respondents will drop out after one wave, but in general, the same respondents are interviewed again and again. So it is possible to keep track of individual change, not just country changes in the information that we collect. And the focus is also different. Is on demographic behavior, and in particular on family and life courses dynamics. And again, open data. Also here we have a quite good coverage of Europe, but the GGS is not just a European survey infrastructure, because it takes place also in South America, Australia, and some Asian countries. And we have two rounds, each consisting of different waves. So GGS1 and GGS2 with different waves, and it started in 2004. The main focus is quite different from those of ESS and the EVS. We can say that ESS and EVS, despite being, let's say, despite having their specificity, are more similar between them. compared to what instead is the GGS that is completely different because it has a main focus on fertility intentions and behaviors, partnership formation and dissolutions, intergenerational relationships, work-family balance, gender roles and the likes, and the distinctive trait is indeed the possibility to study life course perspective and micro-level demographic processes, again with longitudinal data. And it is tailored for the study of familiar and demographic dynamics. This is just a table to sum up what I said so far, so I'm not going through it again, but since we will give you the slide after this presentation, it might be useful as a recap if you want to compare quickly and if you need to decide which data to use in each occasion. And in general, you might want to know when do I need to use each of the survey. And so I provide you this this very short guide to help you. And you can use the ESS when you are interested in studying trust, democracy, welfare, attitudes, and topics like that. And when you want to compare countries on political attitudes. And of course, if you really want the highest methodological standards possible. And you can use the EVS instead when you are more interested in long-term value change, in topics like the region, morality, norms that are not covered that much in the ESS, and when your focus is on cultural transformations. And instead, the GGS is perfect if you want to study fertility, partnerships, and life course transitions and intergenerational relations. So from one generation to the subsequent one. So it might be really relevant for today's topics. So in general, I put some keywords for ESS, attitudes and institution, and as an example, it can be the difference in trust in parliament across Europe. For the EVS, it might be deep values and norms, so you can study the decline of religiosity over time in different European countries. And for the GGS, of course, demographic behaviors and family dynamics. And for instance, you can compare the actual birth versus the initial fertility intentions. Important is that these infrastructures are not competing but are complementary. So they are separate institutions pushing different aims, and so they are not competitor in the market, but they can be used together to enlarge the possibility to answer to social questions and political and policy questions. Indeed, it is exactly what the Infra for the Gen project is doing. So to put all these information together to make it usable in a complementary way to expand the potential of survey data analysis. And now I will show you some tools, and we'll go through these links online. Here is a general recap with all the links, but now we will go in detail in each of that. Most of them, not everything, but most of them are things that are being developed in the context of our Infra for Next Gen project, starting from the inventories of survey items. That is one of the main objective, the main deliverable of the project. So the idea is that starting from the fact that there are a lot of information from different infrastructure, it is sometimes difficult to understand what data are available, so what questions can be asked to different persons over time in different surveys, and if there are questions that are common, which questions in which years, waves, and so on. And if you want to know that, you just have to go to each website, to each survey infrastructure website, and find the information there. Sometimes there is a nice way to check the items, like for example, the ESS has wonderful tables that are really clear, but in other cases, you really have to download the different PDFs. So one PDF for each wave, even within the same server infrastructure. And then you have to search for questions to check if the question asked in a way was repeated 10 years later, and so on. So the idea is the project was to locate all the 8 items asked cross-nationally and identify those that were most pertinent to the objective of the five pillars of the next generation EU program. So make it strong, digital, healthy, green, and equal. And to produce an inventory for each pillar. And we did it. This is a table summing up the results. So you can see that we also added the Eurobarometer and also Kronos, even if it is not in this table. But just concerning the five survey infrastructure, EQLS, ESS, EVS, GGS, and ISSP, we have more than 3,000 items belonging to the five pillars, and the number are crazy if you consider also the Eurobarometer. So we have almost 11,000 items. And this inventory is explorable and it's free. You just have to click on this link. And now I will go out the presentation to show you. So as you can see, we are just in the Infra for Next Gen website. So the link is accessible also there. It's visible from the homepage, but of course, if you have the direct link, it's even easier. And here is the inventory. It is no more than an Excel spreadsheet that has been put online in the nicest way, and you can explore it to discover which questions have been asked in relation to each pillar. So it is explorable, but of course you can type keywords. So for instance, you can search for questions that contain the word generation, and you see that you have information about the survey, the year, and if there is some specific naming for the way it is reported, otherwise it is just the numbering, and you have the exact text, I mean, how the question has been asked to the respondents and the response categories. And you can use these it doesn't work by topic, but by exact keyword. So it is not all the questions containing, like regarding the topic of generation, but containing the exact word generation. And you can use Boolean operators and so on to combine and to make a more specific research. Or otherwise, you can also avoid, if you want to explore more conceptually without any keyword, you can use these filters. So for instance, we are interested in making strong, and in this way we filtered all the questions that we identified as pertinent to the making strong pillar. If you suppose you know in advance you want to work with the GGS data, just as an example, you can filter by solving infrastructure, and you can put more than one, and also for the pillars you can put more than one. And similar for the year, suppose you are interested in using only recent data, you can just select the most recent years, and you can combine all these features and also with keyboard. So these are not like you can work together with keyword and filters, and you can also download the data that you find here. I mean, not directly the data, but the results of this output. You can have a CSV file in which you can see this information in Excel or other software. So it is pretty intuitive. Just play around and have fun and discover that there are plenty of data that you can use. And in this way, you don't need to go through all these websites in and out to find information, but we centralize the information here. So hopefully is a more efficient way to look for information about survey infrastructure online. Then we have Gazy Search. It is not, Gazy is part of the Infra for Next Gen project, but this Gazy Search is an independent issue. Gazy is the social science archive of data from the Leibniz Institute in Bonn, Germany, and you have a lot of information and data stored here. For instance, the European Value Study data are stored here, so you can download the data sets you want. You can see you have the country-specific data sets or the integrated data sets and the like, or just like the inventory, you can find for variables by keywords. So if I click on variables, for instance, I select variables with the generation keyword, and there are literally a lot of things because it is a repository of survey data, so everyone is able to archive their data and make it freely accessible to everyone that might be interested. Although also the Eurobarometer is archived here, so it's huge. There is a lot of information inside it, and as the for the inventory, just go inside, play around, and discover that it's very easy to navigate and is a relevant source for information. And of course, you have this huge survey infrastructure like DBS, Eurobarometer, but you might find also minor, let's say, independent projects that are less famous but can be nonetheless relevant for the scope of your research. And then we have this e-value tool that was developed by the European Value Studies. It was just a way to directly make visible the information collected in the context of the European Value Studies. And the tool was so appreciated and effective that it was decided to replicate it in the context of the Infra for Next Gen project by including not just the European value study information, but information about all the survey infrastructure that are of interest for the project. So here, different from the inventory in which you can find also, sorry, just the questions, here you can already explore the data. You can see you have a European map, and then you have some indicator. It is work in progress, so there might be more variables in the upcoming future. But as you can see, there are already some variables like how important is having good education to get ahead, just an example. And you can see the different percentage across Europe. And if you pass the mouse over the countries, you can get the percentage, and then you can see the total distribution, or you can stratify the distribution by gender, age, educational level, rural or urban dimension, and then combination of them like young men, young women, and so on and so forth. And then if you want also to, you can compare maps, just clicking compare maps, and the screen is split and you have two indicators. So for instance, you can see the percentage for men and women on the same variable, so it is easy to compare. And you have this slide bar to change time. So if you want to have a time series perspective, you can see how the percentage change. And again, it is very simple and intuitive to use, so just play around. The important is to know that it exists and it is here. And then, so probably it goes beyond the scope of this exercise today, because the GGS teaching datasets, it is not something to explore data in such an interactive way, but they've been prepared for teaching purposes. So as we said, the GGS is a longitudinal survey. So the information is repeated for individual, and that makes the data set a bit more complex to manage compared to the cross-sectional data sets, because you have the same information from the same individual repeated over time. So of course, it's nothing impossible, but especially if you are at the beginning of your experience with data, it might be challenging at the beginning. And so are ready to prepare the data sets, not just to analyze them with longitudinal techniques. And so the GGS had this intuition to provide these teaching data sets in which all the information is already arranged in a perfect way to be um, analyzed with longitudinal techniques. And you have two data sets, one starter datasets and one advanced datasets, and you can explore them with SPSS, data, and Excel formats. And again, probably not of interest today because you won't have the time to watch all the tutorial they provided and put it into practice in the limited time that we have. But in the future, especially if you are interested in the topic that we are covering today, so the intergenerational issue and all the things, I really suggest you to have a look at this fundamental resource. And the last thing is the ESS data portal, but I'm not going in detail because Ruxandra will cover it, showing you how to download or how to access directly online to Chronos data. And since Chronos, as anticipated, is part of the ESS, the portal is the same. So you just need to select ESS or Chronos, but the structure is identical. So this is the link where you find both the data that you can download in the usual Stata or SPSS or Excel format, or otherwise, as Ruxandra will show you in a second, the nice way to, similar to the eValue tool and the InexGen tool, the way to show, to produce already maps or some scatter plots, histograms, and the likes already in the portal.